Yeah, I am Mr. Don Trip.
Starlito.
We are the Step Brothers.
And we just jumped off the porch with Dirty Glove Bastards.
Wanna watch the world burn? I feel like a can of gas. If a rapper really wanna smoke, saying my name equivalent to playing with matches. Extracting my every move.
All right, y'all. We got a special edition off the porch by popular demand. We got Craig and Craig, the Step Brothers, better known as Don Trip and Starlito, jumping off the porch with us today. What's up with it?
Most definitely.
I'm just cool and happy to be here.
Hey man, you know, it's always a privilege, brother.
Absolutely, absolutely. And y'all true to this, not new to this, so you know, y'all have graced the porch, you know, several times. Y'all done came and did interviews when we didn't have a porch, and it was just a raw warehouse with scrap metal all around.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
back when the porch ain't had no signatures on it.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man. So appreciate y'all boys pulling up, man.
Indeed.
This definitely has been, you know, a highly sought after interview, highly, you know, demanded. So
Most definitely.
yeah. And finally, we getting the Step Brothers for Life project.
Indeed.
May 9th.
Indeed, May 9th.
Yeah.
For life.
So how does it feel, you know, after so many years? Well, it's been 8 years since Step Brothers 3 released. How does it feel, you know, being back in mode, getting ready to, you know, drop this new project?
It usually were early. It's nostalgic, you know, because it kind of, I don't know, the Step Brothers projects always feel a little more special than solo projects, and it's probably because it's a I don't know. I guess because in those instances, it's there is a person who shares the exact same joy. And, you know, I guess for a solo project, me being the head of it, everything is, you know, there is nothing to truly share in that space.
Well.
And I think for the Step Brothers projects, it's like, you know, winning is fun, but it's always more fun when you win with your brother.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's really how I feel to I guess kind of sum that up for me.
Yeah, it feels great, man. It's amazing. It's returning to form and just also it's like a testament to like our staying power. Like to pick it up 8 years later, it's not as if we stopped working with each other or anything like that, but for the sake
or stop working at all.
Right. But for the sake, well, I did for a couple of years, but
not eat though.
Nah. But overall, as far as the brand goes, to like pick it up, and I think we taking it to another level with this project, so that it feels really good.
No, for sure. And why was there such a long hiatus between Step Brothers 3 and Step Brothers for Life?
Well, one, I think no matter how long we would have took, it would have felt long, because somebody, I won't say no names, Craig, but they was like, we were doing Step Brothers 4 in 2 days or some shit on one of them songs. And then people was like, oh, what happened? Where it's at? And then here we are 8 years later. But, you know, for the most part, life, you know, we just, you know, you kind of don't control that aspect of life. You know, it just happens how it happens. And, you know, I've had things going on, same for him, you know. We just really couldn't find either the mental space or the actual physical time to sit down together and put it together. Because, you know, when it comes to the Step Brothers projects, we don't email them. We do every record in person together. So, you know, that's a task in itself, especially, you know, you consider Step Brothers 3 is when? What year is Step Brothers 3?
2017.
All right, you consider between 2017 and 2025, we both have still had solo careers. You know, I've always had children. Now he's got a child, and you know, you consider all the moving parts. It's not that easy to get us both in the same room for long periods of time. Or, you know what I'm saying. You know, to go and create. And even though it's been a demand for 4 since 3 was released, the last thing we want to do is force it. You know, none of what we've done to this point has been, manicured or we don't want to put it together just because you want it. That don't much make any sense. Or, nor do we want to devalue our brand by giving you something watered down just because we was just trying to hurry up and strike. And we just let it naturally happen on its own. And we've even had Step Brothers 4 conversations a few times, and even in those instances, it didn't feel like the right time, or it truly wasn't enough time or space to get it together or pull it off. And for this, we just I want to say about January, maybe might have been December. We spoke about it before I finished the 24 albums in 24 months. And then once I was done, I think we might have spoke about it once or twice after that, and we just went ahead and pressed go.
Yeah. And you said the word nostalgic earlier. And Trip, I know last night, we were talking and, just talking about just, standing the test of time. And how all of us in these different places that we stand have watched people come and go, people who may have been on a certain trajectory at one point and aren't here anymore for one reason or another. How does it make you guys feel, just in terms of having such long careers the way that you have, but then also just having that anticipation so high as it's been?
It feels, if it's like an accomplished feeling, it's a blessing, it's something to not take for granted, for sure, for some of those reasons that you said, like everybody's not able, as they say, everybody's not here. Right. And then, I think it was always in the back of my mind from the time I started or turned like professional, that I would want to know when it was over with. I wouldn't want to be the last to know. And so, as much as even the time between these projects has felt like a delay to other people, it was more pronounced because people have expressed wanting it. And so like that's like a good feeling of, reminds us that we still here, we still viable, there's still like an audience and a demand for it. But it's like the longevity part of it is like, it's still like awe-inspiring. It's still something that's difficult to even like understand and comprehend, It's like we have to step outside of it, of ourselves almost, to be able to truly like view it in that space. 'Cause I mean, we in it, we're still doing it in real time.
Yeah. And you can't control, that divine timing.
Right. True that. Right. That was the other thing. The last thing you would ask about the time in between, like, it was like at the time of doing 3, it was our intention to come back that year and drop again. Like, I have dropped projects on my birthday in mid-December, like exactly 9 months after when 3 dropped. It dropped on March 15th. It would have been December 15th, which is my birthday. That was like somewhere thrown out there in the car. I said something about it on a song, but life happens as it does. Like, I caught a bad case that summer and wasn't moving around like I wanted to, and dealing with that and the legal side of it, and even just being in the headspace, like it would have made it difficult to deliver on my end of the bargain as far as us bringing what we're supposed to bring to the table, creatively and energy-wise. And then, as the rest of history is, there's been highs and lows and things that just changed everything. But all of that amounts to us arriving, like you said, the divine timing part of it, arriving here, arriving whole. I think we happier, healthier, mentally especially, and yeah, it is, that do speak to the divine time and peace. But also our audience has grown with us, you know, or maturing with us, I feel like even. And that's a cool thing on the longevity end. It's like we're not a novelty in terms of like trendiness. Because a lot of times when the sound of music changes or the trends change, fan bases go with it. You know what I'm saying? Kind of leave you where you were when you were hot. So the saying with us is like, they moving with us, and I mean, I hate to say at our pace, but it kind of is what it is, you know.
And I think too, a lot of us tend to forget that we did go through a global pandemic, which shook all of our worlds up,
and shit upside down.
Yeah, you know, and I feel like even like to this day, we're still adjusting, even though, you know, life is moving 100 miles an hour, you know, or at light speed. I feel like we're still adjusting to just being outside, and we're still, you know what I mean? We're just a few years removed from being shut down.
A lot of shit didn't survive that. You got, you know, you got a lot of companies that didn't shake back, and you know, even now, like I used to frequent Bed Bath & Beyond, but they wound up going out of business maybe like 2 years ago.
That's where you got the pound scales from.
Yeah, well, initially, yeah. But either way, you know, they couldn't fully recover from you know, the COVID shit, and same for, you know, it's like being back on the road now, because a lot of the places, the venues we did, you know, that you could tour at, you know, that you could stop at through tours. You know, a lot of them shits didn't shake back. A lot of those places closed. A lot of those places got new rules now, or you know, new procedures. They don't much.
Some of them just didn't survive.
Exactly. I mean, you know, used to be a capacity. Now it's, you know, I went to out here, Busy Bees.
Oh yeah.
Before the pandemic, that was a place I went to frequently, and then I just came. It's my first time since before then, and you can't go in there no more. Which, you know, could be a good thing. You know, could be the opposite. But I know it's a lot of places that had to. If you did survive the pandemic, it did. You know, it changed you. You had to change some things about how you operate, and you know, same for us as human beings.
Yeah,
we had to do the same.
I mean, the show business, like that's a good point. Like, 'cause we going back out on the road. So, I mean, we done shows in between that time together, quite a few of them. But like even on like you said, a focus run, like I'm finding we're doubling back and trying to contact some of these venues we've been to. Some of them ain't there no more. They just and a lot of it was, like you said, COVID hit. And I remember when it did hit, kind of looking around, and you could kind of see who's who or what's what, and like a lot of, you know, artists suffered without being able to get on the road, because everybody, you know, different people, their situation structured differently. And I remember, like, I had a 1-year-old at the time, so I hate to say it, because it was, you know, I know the health part of it and the effects, but I enjoyed certain aspects of it because it forced me to sit still, and I got to spend like 24 hours a day around the clock time with my child. But I remember looking around like, damn, this probably really affects, you know what I'm saying, people in different ways on the business end. Thankfully, as an indie and having a catalog and et cetera, like, I didn't miss much. If anything, it forced me to be more creative on merchandising and things like that, to make sure I was still creating another income stream and all of that. But yeah, it is different. I think even when we think about the time in between, like until you said it, I wouldn't have cited that as one of the factors, but it
that's
probably
of the life that happened.
It's a huge factor for real.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember working with Rollo, and he was showing me different tactics that he had where he would release music, and promote it a certain way, and then it would almost automatically set him up for multiple shows, you know, throughout the Chitlin circuit. And so I know like some artists who may not have, you know, been at the point where they were really seeing their return, like on their streams, they were seeing the return and doing shows and getting booked in, you know, maybe 8 to 10 different cities, you know, making money, you know what I mean, for a set amount of time. So
Yeah, when that shit paused, that hit everybody.
yeah, for real.
True that.
You guys really deserve your flowers. You know, we were talking about nostalgia, just talking about longevity in the game, but then also, you know, we need to make the point that the both of you have, you know, directed your careers, I mean, truly like the way that you've wanted to. You know, you guys have, you know, weren't dependent on like a hit or a club record or anything like that, you know, really able to like just take your careers like in your own hands and have success with that. How good does that make you guys feel, knowing that you haven't had to, you know, do the norm to, you know, be successful?
I think that's refreshing and rewarding, because on one level, it's a reassurance. You know, I was right, or you know, I do have the means to conduct this myself. And even in that though, it's not the easiest thing to do, because the thing about independence can be misleading to you. You know, you get so independent that you won't allow other people to help. And in real time, sometimes you do need help. In most cases, you need help. And for me, I kind of had to, you know, because it's ups and downs and, you know, everything in between that come with it. So for me, I had to learn to accept outside people's assistance. You know, I came in thinking that, you know, the best way to do this is with my you know, with my family or with my friends, with people I've known since before this. And in some cases, you know, early on that was all right, but I reached a level where I outgrew that sort of assistance, if that makes any sense. At some point, that became me hindering my own path, because I reached a point where I needed people that knew what they were doing already, instead of the people that were learning as we go. We can't all be learning as we go. You know, we reached a point. I know what you know, but what we need to know is on the other side of this, and we can't learn that together. I need somebody that already knows it. If you want to still be a part of this, then I need you to learn it from him while we're progressing with him. And I think that was one of the tools that helped get me to, you know, the space where I can truly do what I want to do and navigate on my own. I had to first cross that bridge. You know, at first you couldn't pay me to pay another person that I didn't know. And like I said, at some point I had to, you know, open that door and say, all right, I think the tools he got might be able to help me, regardless if I just met him today. And you know, once I started doing that, I think, you know, that kind of opened the doors.
It's parts of it, like you said, making it here, and largely what we call like non-traditional, or some of it is taking a long way to get where we are. Some of it is kind of a rewarding feeling of almost like I told you so, without having to say it like that, but or like I could show you better than I could tell you, because I can remember phases of my career early on, the direction I wanted to go in didn't make sense to everybody around me. True. Like some of it may have been even a hierarchy thing of people that I was partnered with or aligned with, or just situations, maybe situations that I didn't end up going in that direction because I didn't feel like they didn't understand the vision I had for myself. Being able to exist and thrive and flourish without, you know, adhering to the standards of things, I think that's amounted to some of the staying power that you spoke of. It's like, had I done it trying to, in a cookie cutter fashion, or trying to stay within certain bounds, or I feel like this wouldn't have probably lasted as long. Like you said, I mean, you mentioned like without a hit record, and I'd agree with that for for the sake of like metrics or a focus on a actual single. Like I didn't put out a song as a like focus single like that or something to work. And I don't even remember how, probably before Step Brothers 1. And just the same, I went up several levels since then too, without doing it. But it's like, I can remember distinctly, it was like taking songs to radio, and that being the approach or the route. It was the standard. It was pretty much the MO within, like, I had a production deal and my earlier dealings. And I remember at one time like kind of going to bat for myself, or like, why are we spending all this on one song? Like, at that time, what it probably cost to shoot a video, which has changed drastically since then, I'm like, we could shoot 10 visuals for what we gonna, apply budget-wise to that one. I think we should shoot 10 and figure out what's the one out of those 10. It might be 5 out of 10. It might, we might arrive at something that we don't even know what we got versus, swinging for the fence with one. And if it ain't the song, if it don't work, then where we go? Because it's like, nobody printing money to say like, and I had that mindset then of like, man, I think, I was like so productive in terms of what I was like making, just damn near living in the studio, or I enjoyed creating music so much that I can remember being like, hey, slow down, you putting too much stuff out. I remember getting that kind of advice at times, and I understood it because it was business, and like I said, different parties had different approaches to things. But slowing down ain't what got me there. You know what I'm saying? It was I kind of believe you build it, they'll come. And I'm like, now we just need to find outlets, figure out a way to service it and keep it going, because as a creative, hell, he did it, I think, to the highest clip of monthly for 2 years straight. Yeah. Man, if it's in you, you gotta let it out. Like, you know what I'm saying? And now we got like over the times the marketplace and all that's only evolved to, there's so much. It's more competitive. It's more like crowded, the space of music consumption, but. Shit, it's also like when you don't got shelf space like in your brick and mortar stores anymore. It's like shit, you can put out an album every day if you. Not that that's necessarily advisable, but again, to your point, it's like doing it on. It's like, man, forget the standard way or the rules of doing it. Like it was like rewarding, or there was some fulfillment to like, yeah, I did it my way,
yeah. Because you guys were some of the early adopters, I feel like, of the, taking the matters into your own hands, more building a brand more than let me build up this song, like you were just saying, let me build this body of work. And because now it's, let me throw a couple, songs out there, see what sticks, and then, or see what the, people gravitate to. And okay, this is where I can put a little more focus on. And, things like that. So I feel like you guys were early on with just like not having a focus track, not having it's about really building a brand more than it is just building one particular song.
True that. Yeah, I like projects more than songs, if that makes sense. Like some of my favorite artists, it's an album by them that stands out, or you know what I mean? It's like those bodies of work that I can just let rock straight through. So as an artist, I think, we go to the studio and I just make a cold-ass song, that's cool, but I'm like trying to attach it to a larger theme, or like, all right, how do I get there? How do we get to this song on you know, over the course of a project. And that's to say, you know, I put out 10 or 12 songs at a time. You may have your one favorite. You may only listen to it. And, you know, so be it. But creatively, like, it was, my focus was more on, like, concepts at large or themes for look at myself more of a album type of artist than hit maker, I guess, if you will. And there's space for all that.
Nah, for sure. Trip, how did you drop so many projects over 2 years? I would say 2.5 years, because you still dropping. You still been dropping projects monthly. I mean, you went 2 years, dropped 24 projects. Yeah. I see this year you still moving in that rotation. Like, how do you have so much, and you not repeating songs, it's not repeated verses, like how?
I don't know, it's kind of like how he just said. I look at this shit like a bakery. Like, you know, I didn't want to make one cupcake and sit here and wait for that one cupcake to sell. You know, I'm gonna fill the I don't know what the hell they call that little thing, but I'm gonna fill that shit up. You know, when people come in, they might get all of them. They might not get all of them. I might have some left over, but they still all out. And that's kind of how I treated the music. I stopped, you know, before then, I used to have hard drives full of shit. And, you know, I go look and shit, I got 70 songs here. And let's put a tape together, but when it's time to put a tape together, I want fresh music on it. Even though those 70 records are only old to me. Right. It's kind of hard to shake that. So to defeat that, I just said, fuck it. I'm gonna start from right here, one song at a time. And, you know, last week of this month, whatever I got, that's what I'm putting out. And once, you know, I don't know, once the ball got rolling, I just stuck at it. I think it became more like a monthly therapy session for me, if anything. And as far as like the sound, I didn't really plan it. I didn't sit and say I want to do this kind of record or that kind of record, or, you know, I wanted it to feel like this or whatever. I just sat down and started going through beats. And, you know, if I caught something, then the idea came from there. And sometimes, you know, I might sit down and not really think of nothing. And when I didn't think of nothing, I moved on. You know, I didn't sit in the studio just to be in the studio. Right. I could have been 30 minutes in and I ain't feeling it. If I ain't feeling it, then so be it. A lot of those albums were recorded like the week of. And in most cases, he can tell you, in most cases I had nothing all the way up until maybe Monday, and it's got to be turned in Wednesday. Wow. And I don't know, I just go in there, I don't know, somehow, you know, the wires get to touching and then we get something going. But I just don't like the idea of forcing it. And that's also why you might hear a 3-minute record, or you might hear a 1.5-minute record. I don't think, you know, once I get to the point in the record where I don't have the next thing I'm about to say, I don't say nothing. I just move on. Like dead ass. Then in some cases, when I'm writing the record, like a lot of my records don't have traditional hooks. Right. What happens is, you know, I wrote to that point, and if I didn't have nothing, I might say what I started with. That's, you know, I'm doing it to get me back in it. And fuck it, I'll say it in the, you know, in the song, and that would help me create whatever followed it. So, you know, they weren't traditional verses. You know, I come from doing, you know, 16 hook, even when it turned into 12 hook. And now I'm, you know, just rapping, whatever happens. I might do 4 and then do the hook, and then do fucking 6 or 8 or whatever the fuck. And at the same regard, like I said, I threw all the rules out. So at that same regard, I knew that a song is really in real time where you make it. Some of my favorite songs ain't structured like songs were supposed to be structured. What's it, Tupac, Ambition as a Rider's got like 4 or 5 verses on it. And he just rapped until And I had seen some footage of Tupac in the studio recording, and I peeped something that I had never noticed up until then, probably like 2022 was when I seen this. But the way he was recording, he would go in and just rap. And once he done, he moved on to the next song. Everything else was for the engineer to figure out. So, like dead ass. So the engineer would go on his own time. Like he had a thing about you trying to mix that shit right here, right now. You trying to add drums and all that shit. You can do that shit later. Like he said, I don't got the time or the luxury to sit in here and wait for you to do what you're doing. Let me do what I'm doing, then you can do what you're doing. So they go and find a place to stop in his verse. And then, you know, if you notice, most of his hooks were just a repetitive word. He said, I'm ambition as a rider. And he say nothing else. All right, so they was piecing it together after he did everything he had to do. So when I peeped that, then it's another record, Eminem record, what is it, Lose Yourself, I think? Lose Yourself, he doing like 20s. He ain't doing 16s or 12s. So when I peeped that, I'm like, man, a lot of this shit I've been doing all the way up until this point, I've been following the unwritten rule book, and it's time to just throw that bitch out and do what I feel like doing.
Yeah.
So I started going in, and whatever that verse ended up in is what it ended up being.
Man, I forgot what book it was, but I was reading a book talking about, you know, like not letting fear, you know, get in the way of you accomplishing things. And it was, you know, speaking to the point that, you know, a lot of times we won't do things because we don't think that we're doing it right.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to step out and do things your way because you could be, you know, setting up the whole new way that something could be done.
Could be creating the path for what's the new right, or you know, another way that's accepted as right. Because you know, you gotta consider fucking Andre 3000 was one of the biggest people on the planet. This nigga was wearing fucking goat legs, and you know. He couldn't have sat with somebody that said, that's a good idea. He said, fuck it, I'm gonna do what I wanna do. Yeah. He went put it on, what, he got shoulder pads, football shoulder pads on. You know, that shit, he had to really just go with his own ideas or his own path. And it became something that, you know, and even then it looked more like a gimmick, but the further you stuck with Outkast, you can see, you know, he's just, you know, he found other ways to express himself. He's not being a character right now. You know, it would give that impression, but he's truly just doing what he feels is comfortable for himself. And you know, the same thing, I approach the music the same way now, which I think that's even why this project feels refreshing, because all the way up into the, you know, 2020s, I was operating off a rule book that didn't exist. And for this one, we got in the studio, and for the most part, we kind of both operate that way. It's a record on our tape. I don't remember which one it is, but it's one of them that he's got a third verse or a second verse. And I don't know how you say that. He got the first verse and the third verse. There is no fourth verse.
Gotcha.
But when we did the record, he was really just expressing. He just wanted, he had this idea in his head, so he kept writing. And he like, you know, we can put this on something else, but I got to get this verse out. And when he did it, I said, why we got to put it on something else? He's like, you know, you don't have another verse. So what the fuck it matter if I got another verse? It's a song. That made the song. And I'm like, man, you know, we don't got to say, you know, we don't have to we didn't sit and say or start trying to figure out if he got 17 lines, do I have 17 lines? I'm like, you know, when we started doing that, I don't think we're creating no more. I think now we're managing it, and I don't want to do that. I want it to feel like art, and the only way that's going to happen is for it to be art. So, you know, he went in, he had more to say, and he had to save space to say whatever he had to say. And I think that's part of why it feels refreshing. It feels like the first one, because we had no rules on the first one. We had no plan for the first one. Yeah. That shit just, you know, we let it hit the ground and spread, the wildfire spread. And same deal for this one. We didn't intentionally do that. We didn't go in and say, let's adopt the same mentality we had for the first one. We came in, and at this point in our lives, more now than ever, we get to say what we want to do. And, you know, we went in and that's how the music came about. Like, you know, who's going to tell us that this is wrong? Who's going to tell us that, you know, or, you know, even with that, who's going to say, I suppose I had another verse.
Right.
He had one, that's what it was. And, you know, and it became something. And even with that, like, I think our bond in between 3 and 4, even though I guess this kind of answers the question from earlier, but I think our personal bond in between 3 and 4, on top of our musical bond, I guess, I think that's also what helped 4 become what it is. And, you know, hopefully the audience be able to experience it in the way we experienced it. But it was a lot of, man, I don't know, it was like we didn't much have to consult. It was free flowing ideas. I can go in and put something together, and you know he got an idea, even if it's not a verse idea. He's got an idea what should happen engineering wise. You know, oh, we take this sound out or blend this in or make that word echo, that kind of shit. It was happening in real time.
Yeah. And we didn't really have to this point, like a structure, a layout for it. And I think that song that you were mentioning was Robin Hood. It was Robin Hood. I was just writing as he was writing. Like I had my first verse kind of put together, and then he took off from something I said in that first verse. That even ended up being where the title of the song came from. Right. And while he was, I didn't know what he was saying on his verse, but I just kind of started writing something else. Just the beat was just speaking to me. It was just I mean, you know, the music, I guess. But I was writing something just for the sake of writing, and I didn't know how well it would mesh with what he was saying. I didn't know where the song was gonna go. We was gonna put a chorus on the song, and by the time I shared it, he was like, "Yeah, that's it." Saying that, we kind of had that conversation even prior to starting this. Like it was some advice he gave me of like, quit overthinking it. Like, you know, it's even to now like you trying to make it make too much sense. And it's whatever you do is gonna make sense to somebody. Like I was telling him I had writer's block, and he told me to make a song about having writer's block. People want to hear that. And I was like, damn. And that was the intro to that album at that time, to Love Drug. The same with this, like, that song came about that way. The outro, the last song we did, Alternate Ending, like, we don't have the same amount of bars on that song. And I just noticed it because I was looking at the screen on Pro Tools, and I could just tell his verse was longer. And it was the same thing. I thought the song was perfect. It wasn't like, oh, he rapped a little longer, so let me go back in. Kind of thing. It's just, it's fine as it is. Like you was talking about, divine timing, perfect timing, things happen in perfect order, sequence. It was, but a lot of the song with Robin right now, it's 4 verses on there, and well, technically, it's 8 verses, cause she's singing, but she's not singing a hook. Like she says something different every time, making her parts verses more than it's a singer, it's a vocalist, so it feels like verse hook, but it's actually almost like a running conversation.
So even with that, it was non-traditional.
Right.
And you know, again, when we say, well, this ain't how you do songs, or this ain't how people do songs, it really don't much matter.
I mean, y'all writing a new rule book to it, if there's even a rule book, you know?
Right.
I guess the rule would be to just do what you feel. Like, you know.
Absolutely.
I think even with, I mean, it's like basketball. We were the 2, you know, leading scorers on the team. I ain't looking up to see if he scored 20 so I can outscore his 20.
Right.
You know, his 20 plus my 20, we 40 points up. That's how we would look at it. Or, you know, even if he went up.
I might just have to get the rebound, kick it out to him.
Right. You know, that's kind of how we look at it. We look at it, you know, like it's true to art, and whatever he do to it is going to complement what I'm doing. Whether it's, just, you know, the same amount of shit or not. and vice versa. You know, it's beyond just the recording process. It's with pretty much everything we're doing, like, you know, every aspect of it. But that's because in real life, that's how we are anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I think it translates more in this project than any other project because we spent more time with each other. The first one is 2011. We met in 2010, I think. Or maybe late 2010. The second one is 2013. See, I'm getting better with the numbers. Yeah. The second was 2013, so that's like 2 years. Then the third one was 2017. All right, so that's 4 years. All right, you consider all that time us getting to know each other and creating a bond, and then the 8 years in between. Well, we've been in each other's lives. It's evident in the music, of course. Although some people aren't fans of us individually, they may only be Step Brothers fans. So they might have missed a lot of the collaborations in between. But all the way in between, we, like that's what I was saying earlier, we didn't stop recording, we didn't stop linking up, we didn't stop being brothers. We ain't say 2025, hey man, how you been? I just found your number and I was reaching out because maybe it's time to do a reunion. We've been locked in, period. It ain't something that we had to go back and redo. It ain't like, the group broke up and somebody said it was a good idea and now we need some money, so now we're gonna go back and do it. We always we always need some money. But we was doing what we would normally do, and it just felt right, and it came about. And when it came to the actual, the creating process, it did the same thing. We just went in, and what happens happens.
Yeah. And the next one will be in 16 years, based on the current pace. You know what I'm saying? It was 2 years and it was 4 years between. This one been 8 years, so 2041.
My arms would be gray by then.
We're gonna have a lot of shit to talk about.
You feel me?
Right.
Lito, I was gonna say, with you adding that verse or having an extra verse on that song you were talking about, Robin Hood, was that you kind of getting back at Trip on some of your songs together where he'll go off on a tangent and spit 100 extra bars? I think on Put the Gun Down, Craig.
Yeah, where it wasn't. He does that though. He does that sometimes. It wasn't that at all. Cause like I said, even my intent wasn't for that verse to necessarily land on that song. I just been, I think we had spoke about it, like I was and I'm still doing it, like as an exercise. I've been pushing myself to write something every day, if it's a journal, if it's journaling, if it's a poem, to-do list, like putting like the practice of putting pen and pad to write my thoughts, ideas, affirmations, whatever it is. So I think anything you do routinely, you get better at it, and it's just more of a freedom of expression. When I did the irony is the verse on that song, the way I ended the verse was almost like I wasn't done. You know what I'm saying? Like the last thing I said on the first verse, I'm gonna leave it right there. Yeah. Cause it was almost an incomplete thought, and he picks it up like I got it, and then goes where he goes. So where I started wasn't picking up from where I left off the first verse. I was just writing something down. Yeah. The words was dancing around in my head, and I wrote them down. Right. So I wasn't trying to out rap or over rap or get back cause he's a robot. He was talking. You asked him how he do 24 projects. I was gonna tell him his battery pack was showing in the back. For real. He's a machine. But it ain't that. I think it was another song that it was like that. I may have had an extra a shot in Florida. Like I got a third verse there, and in that case it was. I had to get the rest of them bars off, kind of thing. Yeah. But it had less to do with our balance is in the imbalance. Yeah. Like we don't sound alike. Right. We don't rap alike, but we rap really well together, if that makes sense. Yeah. But tone of voice, flow, all that stuff is so different that it's not I don't like they say comparison is a thief of joy. I don't think we measure a way up what we do like versus each other, and it's like truly like a compliment. So just the same as other songs where it's probably tilted the other way, and we're just trying to make the best song.
Right.
At the end of the day, I know it was one of the band play records. I liked the beat. In my own time, I was just freestyling and just caught a cadence that I thought was kind of slick, and I just told the engineer, my guy Nick Neasy, I was like, just record it. I just want to find this cadence, find a pocket. I'll put the words with it later. And I just freestyled, but it wasn't like that I rapped for 3 minutes. I was just saying random shit that rhymed, maybe 3-4 bars apart, another. And so when we were going through beats, when we got together, it was band played at the intro. That beat had got set aside, and we knocked that out as soon as we pulled it up. You know, I was like, man, go through the folder, and he was searching for sessions, and we played that. It was basically me scatting. I think it would be kind of called that. And when I played it, I was like, oh, that's not that ain't a song. It's just to me, I was probably like I was just bullshitting around, like. And when he heard it, he was like, shit, well, when you piece those, you know, out of some of the shit you saying, like piece it together, like that's the chorus. And I was like, damn, I was trying to build it out as a verse, and I just had never thought about going back to the song, but it was like basically the songwriter or the structure of it came from something he heard out of my voice, you know, even so. I was like, okay. He was like, well, whenever you put it together, then get it back to me. And we actually recorded it, you know.
Oh, over here. Word, like, that's what's up.
And
oh yeah, we did.
Yeah. So a lot of times it's like, nah, it ain't never competitive in that regard. Cause even on that song where he rapped for 1,700 bars on my song, like the fan in me loves it. Yeah. Cause it's like, shit, the more the better. And
even when I did it, that's actually what you said, put the gun down.
Yeah.
I didn't
even know he was getting on that song.
I was recording with the producer that made the beat, and he played the. I don't know if he even asked you if it was okay, but you know, we rock how we rock.
Yeah.
So he played the record, and I was like, you know, I knew at this moment in time that Craig was like unsure about when his songs was done for whatever the fuck reason. So when I heard that, I'm like, all right, I'm about to jump. I'm gonna put a verse on it. I'm gonna force his hand. Cause he like, it ain't finished. All right, well, once I ain't gonna be no room to finish it once I'm done. So that's really what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking like I'm gonna put 100 bars on it. I just started writing, and when I started writing, there was more beat going, and I still had ideas. Yeah. So when I finished writing the verse, that's how I looked at it. I'm like, well, if I leave, if I start trying to dissect it and leave space for him, he gonna again say the fucking song ain't done. So you can't say the song ain't done if I rap till the fucking beat go off.
Like, yeah,
and what happened? He said, well, I guess the song is done. And it made whatever project was next. Yeah. But when I do that though, with the, if I give you a verse and it's twice as long as your verse on your feature, it's because I genuinely fuck with you as an artist. Because I don't much lend that in real time. If I'm doing a feature, you said a 12, that's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get a 12. But I think that's like, I don't know, it's like my musical gesture for the people I truly rock with. Because I don't do that for everybody. And some people, I haven't, it don't get back to me. But some people might even be offended by it. I really wouldn't know. But if so, you can always, get a verse back. I would gladly put it somewhere else. But, like I said, I do that shit because, that's just me saying I fuck with you.
Word.
I started that because of, I don't know the name of the song. Somehow, that's why I'm right up under it. But the song, it's Freaky Zeke's song. and I never knew it was Freaky Zeke song. Cause Wayne's got a fucking 900 bar verse in the beginning of it.
What's a beat without bass or something like
Right,
that?
I never even heard they said what's a beat without bass, then it went off on every mixtape I had ever heard it on.
Yeah.
And then one day I got, one day I was looking for it, and when I found it, it's a whole song. So even a third person on this song. I can't remember who the third person was. But when I heard that, I was like, man, you know how much, this is like the height of Wayne's career. I'm like, you know how much he had to fuck with Freaky Zeke to one, do a verse for Freaky Zeke, because Freaky Zeke is not really a rapper.
Right.
And two, he went the fuck off forever on the verse. I'm like, he had to really that to me said he really rocked with them guys. Mm-hmm. And from that I said, that's something I'd like to adopt if ever I had the opportunity. And then, fast forward in life, sometimes I get the opportunity. And I also noticed that some people, the people that be diehard fans and manage to get a feature, they try to send me, when they send the song to me, they send it with like the whole, it be verse, hook, and empty space. Yeah. I'm like, oh, you think this is that, but it's not. It's not. You go get the 12 you paid for.
Yeah. Yeah, I learned. Well, like I said, that was a surprise that he was featured on that particular song. But I've learned you have to give him very clear directives and boundaries.
Like, here are the parameters, bro. Like,
even then, he might loop the damn beat himself and make, you can't really. Yeah. It's, he's his own man in that sense.
Let the creativity flow, man.
For sure.
It happen. And I also know for our shit, in a lot of cases, our brands are intertwined. Mm-hmm. So, if you hear me on his record, it feel like an hour record to the listener. Yeah. So I know that in no shape, form, or fashion can my contribution hurt this song. So,
Right. Now, individually, you both have spoken about, when you jumped off the porch in terms of growing up. When would you guys say that you jumped off the porch in your careers?
For me, I would say, I don't know the dates. I just learned these Step Brothers dates today. So I don't know the date for me. But I had did a record, I want to say it was Good Morning. Did a record called Good Morning in Memphis. And it started to buzz in Memphis so much so that I started getting paid to perform. The second I started getting paid to perform, I think that's when I jumped off the porch. Everything before that was practice or I can't say collegiate because now they got them NILs. But everything before that was me getting in gear to play in the big leagues. Right. So I think that would be the moment I jumped off the porch.
Okay. Yeah, you saying more so going from like amateur to professional.
Right. Yeah, because once you're not a professional until you paid for it. Yeah. So the second I got paid for a show, I knew I could do this now. This, I can lean on this.
I say, it probably would have been like right after I graduated high school, I was just like rapping for my friends. Like my basketball teammates knew I rapped. I might be in the back of the van on an AAU trip freestyling and shit. I was going to the studio, but I ain't have like much music. I probably had at the time I graduated high school, I probably recorded less than 10 songs, like in a studio, like at that time. But the jumping off the porch of like, I won't say it's like I arrived, but I battled a legend from Nashville, especially at that time. Like that was my viewpoint. Was older than me and had come out and did numbers. I battled Cool Daddy Fresh.
So this from Nashville, so I'm not familiar.
Right. Yeah, I get that. I can see that. I battled Cool Daddy Fresh at this studio like Cross Tracks Entertainment. He had a studio close to a neighborhood, Joe Johnson, across from like the projects on the other side of town where I'm from. But like 17-year-old me is battling somebody that's had moved hundreds of thousands of units and was a fixture, you know what I'm saying, for our rap scene. Very like impromptu. I didn't go to a battle. I went to rap for the CEO of that label. He had a studio. To me, it was just, I'm just trying to get in the studio. I'm just trying to make something happen. I 100% didn't wake up that morning thinking I was going to battle anybody. But I was more of a rap for you, rapping a cipher. I didn't have a demo. I didn't have a lot of music to like, hey, check this out. And it wasn't like professional grade yet. I wasn't polished enough as a recording artist. I was a young nigga that was trying to rap. And with me going over there and to rap, somebody that was just there at the studio was like, hey, they was trying to get Fresh to rap with me, and it turned into like him kind of, I guess kind of almost like putting me down, like I'm, who is he to rap with? And that turned into a battle of sorts. And I say that, for me, like the legend began then. Cause like I said, I was out of bounds in a sense. So I'm across town, I'm a fish out of water in terms of where I was, but I showed up. I showed and proved that I could rap that day. And some of the people that were around for that battle became like instrumental in the early stages of my career. It was people there that would end up helping to, you know what I'm saying, back and support my early push and to getting to the next level of getting into the professional, getting out of that amateur space. So I say then that right post high school graduation would have been a jumping out the porch. Like as far as the next steps of it would have been, I guess 2 years later, I put out my first, a year and a half later, I put out my first mixtape, like end of 2003.
Okay.
I was 18 and about to turn 19. And I put out my first mixtape, and within like 9 months, I had a record deal. You know, I was in college at the time. It was my sophomore year of college, and I put out a project November 03. Then I put out Volume 2 in February of 04. Then I put out Volume 3 in May of 04. And I put out Volume 4 in August of 04. It was like, I mean, every 3 months, I put out 4 projects in 9 months. And between the third and the fourth one, I was brokering a deal with Yo Gotti and Company.
Okay.
And that was, it happened relatively fast, so that would have been, I guess, the turning pro. I don't mean the deal part of it, but like from day one, I started making money off the music because I was rap hustling. I was out the trunk. I was hand for hand. I was putting my music in mom and pop stores on consignment and otherwise. And along the way, people started paying me to feature and things like that. I'm doing, like I was a teenager. I was 18 when I started. I'm doing teen night shows and things like that. And it was like right away, it was like, all right, this is for real. And that led to me saying, all right, I'm gonna drop out of college and pursue this full time as a career path. I guess the last moment that felt like a transcendence or jumping out the porch was, I remember the first show that I got paid $1,000 for. They actually gave me $1,000 in a bottle of Cristal. Looking back, I should have just took 1,500 instead. But it was, and I opened up for Lil Boosie. Okay. And this was like January of 05.
Oh, word.
And that was the first time, like I said, getting $1,000. I remember it being like I had got paid for some shows by then, but it was probably like, for whatever reason, I felt like, all right, I got $1,000 for a show. And at that time, especially, I think I just turned 20. I was like, all right, I'm rapping. Like this.
And
this
opening for Boosie. I mean,
Yeah,
in the South, you know.
Yeah, that's something.
Yeah, Boosie is, you know, this might be a bad comparison, but like in the South, Boosie is like RJZ or something, or you know what I mean? Like on
culturally,
for sure. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, appeal and for sure. And
well, before you say that, what's your relationship now with? What'd you say his name was?
Cool Daddy Fresh.
Yeah, Cool Daddy Fresh.
He cool. I mean.
So y'all didn't salvage or merge your relationship from that.
Hell no.
I don't know. You know, I don't know anything about Cool Daddy Fresh. So,
Nah, I don't want to I don't want to imply nothing negative. We just never.
No,
we
that's
never
not what
worked.
I'm not saying y'all was beefing. You said 17, so I couldn't really call that a beef anyway.
Nah, but it was, you know,
it was just competitiveness.
Yeah, but it was unwarranted. Like when he walked in, cause he was signed to that label at that time.
Okay.
When he walked in, I was like, damn, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? I'm young, impressionable. I want to be a rapper. Like if that was my jumping out the porch moment, I didn't fully view myself. I definitely didn't look at myself as being in the game.
Right.
But I didn't wholly view myself as a rapper. I was almost trying to convince myself that I was a rapper, or I was, you know, I had training wheels on. If it would be like you said, I would.
And he made you take him off.
Yeah, fast, cause it was like, man, who is this nigga? Like I ain't rapping with this nigga, and I'm like, you know
what's to be expected?
You fight or flight in them situations. So
gonna sit down.
I salute him and give him credit for what that nudge that ended up equaling like confidence.
Yeah, I was about to say that might have been, you know, the spark that was needed.
Yeah. Even if that wasn't his intent, but it.
Well, you told me once, you know, you kind of got to take the good out of it. You know, take the good from it. You know, it may not have been his intention to give you the push you needed to get pushed out the nest, but had he not done it, not saying it would never have happened, but had he not done it when he done it, you would have learned how to fly later. And you learn how to fly right then, so you got to go ahead, you know, that let you know, all right, I can do this, let's get moving.
Yeah, for sure, because like I said, the environment was in, it was one of them, like, if I won this crowd over, like, as I say, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Right. And most success comes from us being thrown in the fire, you know, having to handle stuff. Now, I know we are wrestling fans, so I was watching the Vince McMahon documentary and saw how, crazy, bro. But it was dope because it talks about how his pops, like, just kind of, I think, like, one of the main guys that was the ring announcer ended up not coming to work or something like that. And Vince, his pops just threw him in there and just, you know, forced him to do it. He didn't really know what he was doing. But from that, he was great at it and became great. And that was what
transcended.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, sometimes it's what you need, even if it was, you know, in the worst of circumstances. Sometimes that's what it takes.
No, for sure.
They say, what is it? Pressure turns coal into diamonds. So
Yeah, survival instincts, you know.
True that.
Nah, for sure.
Yeah, so them was the moments for me, like, and it was, like I said, different pockets.
No, that's what's up, though. That's what's up.
Yeah.
And then, Lito, you dropped your Regretfully project produced by Sapphire recently. And on the Street Ball song, you said, I didn't want to be a rapper, I was into making beats.
Yeah.
And last night I bumped into Pill, and I was telling him I was just at y'all event, and it's funny because he was saying, like, man, Starlito was such a dope producer. He was like, man, Lito should be put in those, should be considered in those lists with like J. Cole, Big Crit. Like he was saying artists that where I didn't even know he was a rapper, but he was such a dope producer early on. Pill said that to me last night.
He might shout out to Pill. He might have me confused with somebody because
he was talking about you because then after that he also spoke.
He's not referring to like the actual beat making process. He referring to the. I ain't gonna say him because I was gonna say him. I know how you gonna look at me, but he was referring to the producers in the music industry that don't make beats, but they are like involved in
in
the process. I was gonna say Puffy, but you know I know you got some kind of.
Nah, I don't know that
But
nigga.
Puffy ain't never touched none of that shit.
Yeah.
Puffy he just had incredible input. And same for Craig. If he's ever in the room with the producer, he's got some input to help build what you're building.
Yeah.
And in some cases, shit, I'm sure they got software out now that could help him make beats. I don't think he could make a good beat without it. But he got the ear for it, if that make any sense. He don't got the hands for it, but he got the ear for it. So I think, if anything, that might be what Peel was referring to.
Word.
That he, you know,
I can dig it.
if we in the studio,
He was showing you hella respect though.
he got
Yeah,
the
for
he
sure.
got the
Yeah, I
tools
fuck with- I fuck
to
with
enhance whatever we're doing as far as the beat is concerned. A lot of that shit when it comes to that, I picked up from him. You know, like, you know, he was one of the first people to like pick where the beat drop out, or, you know, pick when the beat start warping and shit. The first time I saw that was him standing in front of the computer doing that shit. As a matter of fact, he was doing it himself first time I saw it. But I think that's what he means, like, you know, when it comes to the production level, he more hands-on with that, especially than me, because for me, I'm gonna listen to the beat, and if I don't like the hi-hats, I don't like your beat, we're going to the next beat.
Yeah.
And Craig would listen and say, okay, this can be changed, or that can be changed, and then we got what we need. You know, like, he's sending beats back to producers to get shit changed and sent back to him.
Yeah.
I don't spend that kind of time. I moved on.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's production, and I actually got a co-producing credit on this album, on the Step Brothers for Life album.
Indeed.
And I got a production credit on one of them because it was some funny business and some stuff going on, and I took the credit. Yeah,
production credit.
It was, I was on some bullshit, but
that's different.
It was deserving.
Yeah.
But no, I actually did co-produce one of the tracks on this album, so that was a fun experience, and I guess going back to my roots of that, cause yeah, and that Street Ball record, like that was absolutely true. Like I always wanted to be in a rap crew or a group. I thought No Limit as a collective was like the coolest shit in the world. I thought Cash Money, like the rap clique, was just some live shit to me. You know what I'm saying? Even Rough Riders, Wu-Tang, like, and I guess Cash Money, ironically, I would end up, you know what I'm saying, signed there later. But at the time that I was getting into rapping and wanting to do it, they were kind of, you know, the most popular, especially from, you know, being from the South, being from Tennessee. It was, I guess 3-6 would be a part of another clique, but I took to the producers. I wanted to be the Manny Fresh of the clique. I thought it was cool that DJ Paul was, I mean, they both rapped, like Paul and Manny Fresh, but knowing that they was primarily, especially with Fresh, he was making all the beats.
Right.
I was like, man, I'd rather, that's what my aspirations were, but like right away, I just kind of felt like my beats wasn't that good. Like, I found my way to rapping primarily because every beat that the people that I was making music with at that time, like probably 15 years old or something like that, I'd write something to the beats that I made. So I'm trying to get the beats to my homeboys, and I let them hear what I wrote to it, and like, man, you need to get on there with us. That kind of pushed me into the space. When I first was going to the studio, I had a keyboard and was trying to just play the beats, be the producer.
Yeah.
And that turned into, like, I'm getting on every song that they do on my beats, and it looked up and was like, hey, you just want to be in a group with us kind of thing? I'm like, shit, I guess. And when we would get beats from other people, I always felt like the beat sounded better than mine. And when I would share the music that we was making with my peers, other people's reaction to my verses kind of, I guess, also gave me that confidence. They're like, man, you can rap. and that combination of things happen at the same time phased the beat making out of it. But to y'all point, I do think production is more than beat making. And at different phases of my career, especially earlier, I had to learn to wear that hat because true producers are almost extinct.
Yeah, for real.
And there's a lot of skilled, talented beat makers, but even the art of beat making is kind of watered down because loops and stuff are so plentiful, or technology. You could probably watch a YouTube video and figure out how to make a beat.
They got a program where you can do, you can just scat and pick the sounds for replace the sounds.
Yeah, I mean the access and the technology makes it where like production quality and the value of production itself is becoming a wash. But like I've always like enjoyed the studio and the process of it, and I do think you can overproduce or take it too far sometimes. So that's the thing with some of my producers, some of the guys that make my beats. Like if I'm in the studio while you're making a beat, I'm the first to tell somebody like that's good, that's enough. Like don't add another sound to it. Like I like it, you know. So you're gonna make it where I don't like it.
Almost like the Pac reference you made earlier. Like, man, add the stuff to the beat after I'm finished doing what I'm doing. Like,
and even then, and I was gonna say, even then, you might fuck my song up. You know what I'm saying? Because flow wise, it might be something in there that's standing out that I'm almost rapping to or around that sound. You put a bunch of shit, it's gonna be noise, it's gonna be clutter, or it's not the pocket that I'm in flow wise might not hit the same. But like
that's how I rap for the. I rap according to how the beat sound while I'm saying what I'm saying. So if you was to change the beat around how I rapped on it, I mean, it might sound right to somebody else, but it wouldn't sound right to me because my flow changed because of the beat in that area. So you know, you should start switching that kind of shit around. Like you said, you gonna fuck around. I ain't gonna like the beat now. So,
but even I mentioned going to dropping out of school to pursue a career. Maybe little known fact, I went back to college while signed and everything, like maybe 4 years later. And I went to a different college. I went to Tennessee State originally, HBCU in Nashville. Later I went to Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, 30, 40 minutes outside the city, and took up that recording industry like program as a major. And a marketing minor. It was like I knew when I went to college the first time, it was just what I felt like I was supposed to do. Like my dad's side of the family, damn near everybody went to that school, went to TSU. I was one of the first on my mom's side to even like pursue college like that. But I didn't know what the hell. I copied whatever it is when you sign up. I didn't even meet an advisor. My homeboy, B-Rad, whatever numbers he put for his courses, I just filled out the same as that. Like we had all classes together. Like I don't know what that nigga was majoring in or nothing. I just was going to college.
I'm gonna be whatever you hear.
Right.
But the second time when I went back to school, I knew exactly what it was. I was into it already. I was a professional rapper. You know, I was going to class and might have a show on the weekend type of thing. And with that, I leveled up like I had been doing it because I had a studio in my house by that time even, but I was learning like by the books of how to do shit. It was a lot of shit I've been messing with on Pro Tools, just trying shit. And I'm sitting in class like looking at textbooks like, oh, that's what, you know, reading like an EQ graph and the different regions of it, the sounds that come with it. Like I'm seeing it applied like,
explain.
Yeah, and that scaled up like my technical savvy. I feel like I probably was above average as far as on the hands-on end and understanding. A lot of it was by necessity. I wanted to record more frequently and faster than damn near any engineer or studio would allow, damn near. So a lot of times in order for me to be able to record like I wanted to, I had to record myself.
Right.
Or, you know, whoever I'm recording with, they going to sleep, and I'm still at it. So it's like shit. I started taking mental notes of what buttons they was pressing, but now I'm going to school and learning the shit, and that just took me to a whole nother level. And by the time we met, it was like I'm immersed in it. So less the producer from the beat making end, it's just like all the way across the board, I had to figure out how to do everybody's job.
You was on some Quincy Jones, Jermaine Dupri, like true producer, L.A. Reid, like really orchestrating like the sounds.
And even to now, like you mentioned the project with Sapphire, who is I think a highly skilled producer, innovative. You mentioned Quincy Jones, who I'm a big fan of. I've gone back, trying to take it back to the roots of all this shit. I've been working with more live musicians and trying to bring that into the fold and the production space. We work with my guy Larry Jenkins. He played the trumpet on like half the Regretfully album. We had I think Vitamin G is his name, saxophone player on there. And that came from I've done a couple shows with a band based out of Nashville called Brassville.
Okay, yeah.
And working with the band, even practicing, rehearsing with them, I just felt like one with the music. Like it created a different relationship with me and my own music. And from practicing and performing, I wanted to bring them elements into the creating the music space. And yeah, I mean, I am probably as much a fan of producers as rappers, because that's at its core, you know. For sure, if you got bars, you got bars. There's rappers that I'm fans of that I don't think that they make great music. I think that they are really good rappers. You know, I could hear them freestyle, I could hear them rap on somebody else's beat, and they gonna go crazy, and I can count on them for that. But it's like, as far as like, maybe they don't quite nail it home with their music. And then as producers, like, I'm a huge fan of Pharrell.
Right, yeah.
And cause it's just musicianship, and but it's also concepts. And one of my favorite music films is Fade to Black.
Okay, yeah.
And aside from, I mean, the concert part of it is cool. Seeing the whole journey to making that album and it coming out the mess, all that shit's cool. But I love all the in-studio scenes. Yeah. Cause with everyone with everyone that he showed, pretty much, the producers are right there with him, and I feel like added something to those songs being created but Pharrell namely is like, man, I gotta get my movie shit off. I gotta it's like the brainstorming to see what their conversations was, and that build up to the song that was actually made, which was Allure. It was my favorite song on that album, or the Black album. It's like, damn, like that's how it's supposed to go. Even Timbaland in there dancing around, like I think he's doing like this while the beat playing. You could see the wheels turning with Jay-Z. Like, oh shit, like I could see this. I could see this in the club. And I'm gonna say something to make motherfuckers do that. What you doing? Yeah. Like, that's the element. And so, saying all that to say, part of what works for us is us getting in the same room. You know what I'm saying? That's almost half the battle. Like, we both skilled writers, lyricists. We can rap to anything. We can rap a cappella and knock it out the park. But it's those conversations, it's those moments, it's that meeting in the middle, like, in an organic fashion that ends up. And if that means, because a lot of times, the producers aren't there, we just got their beats. So maybe that's when that happens, or doubling down, and it's almost like, all right, we're gonna conceptualize this. And I guess, that is production. Sometimes it is literally like, hey, change that sound to this sound over here. And I may not be, like you said, touching the hardware to do it. Sometimes I'm doing it engineering wise. Yeah,
word. And with the Step Brothers projects, you guys record all of them together. Right. what would you say was the biggest difference and even like the most fulfilling moments of actually producing or working on this Step Brothers for Life project together? And was the process any different this time around?
I think it was easy, but that's also because, you know, we got so much experience with each other. So I would say it was fun again. I can't say if it felt the same way it felt from maybe one, but it was fun again. Us just being able to you know, to merge together to create something is always exciting or exhilarating. And in that regard, you know, it's kind of, it's almost worry-free. It's like, he said it before, you know, I only got to do half the job in here. Because, you know, it's two of us, and I know you're going to hold it down. So if it was a seesaw, it would just be balanced. It wouldn't tip up or down. And I think that's one of the most fascinating parts about it. So, you know, that would be my take on it.
You said most fulfilling, and what else?
Yeah, and I was just asking, like, was there any aspects of recording this project that was any different from the other projects that you guys recorded together?
Yeah, I kind of doubled down on the idea of it being like fun. Again, it was fun. It was more joy. It was more enjoyable than work, than feeling like work. I mean, we may have had a standard, you know, an objective set, but it wasn't like a fulfillment, like, all right, we gotta do this, or, you know.
Yeah, we weren't riding the clock. We can't,
right.
You know, we
and with that,
really enjoy what we was doing.
We made 17 songs and y'all getting 16 of them.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't that we just had to search out, you know what I'm saying? We was in a pocket immediately.
Yeah.
And that was fulfilling to know, like, that we dialed in. I think 6 studio sessions, and
we jumped right in it. You know.
Multiple cities too.
Yeah, we recorded part of it in Nashville, in Memphis, down here in Atlanta, and in Las Vegas.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, so 4 different cities, 6 sessions or so, something like that. And the difference was, it was more different for me than for him. But it was like, I'm a dad now, and that had never been the case on any of the first 3. So I'm able to, like, understand better what the process was of getting it all together to make it happen with the first 3. I got a different respect for how he was able to show up and deliver his end of it on the other things, because I know how demanding parenthood can be, especially, you know, he's a hands-on, full-time, you know, he's a real parent, you know what I'm saying, and a presence. But juggling and navigating your personal obligations with professional and otherwise is a challenge, probably for anybody in any field. But with this, like I said, we have to physically be there, and if that meant traveling, if that meant long nights, longer hours in the studio, I mean, we still in it, in the grind of it. Yeah. That was something that was different for me, because balance.
We shared that.
Yeah, but I was just about to say, but whereas it was different, it was almost like something to appreciate, of us kind of being in that same space, versus I was, like, especially early on in us working together, I was all over the place. I might wake up and just be in a different city tomorrow because I had the freedom to do that. And with bro, he's like, hey, you gotta kind of give me some lead time. I gotta move some things around to be able to, I love to, but I can't, kind of thing. And like I said, now that I can understand it, because it's my reality as well, it's also, like, probably made us being able to carve out the time and link that much more, I want to say fulfilling, but that's why we, like, kind of arrive on the timing that we on. Like, I think collectively, like, we don't take each other's time for granted, and I think just it's second nature for us to make the most of it. Like, we don't arrive like, all right, it's time to work. Like, it ain't, like, urgent in that sense. It's natural. It's like, when we get around each other, the work gonna get done, cause that's the undertone of why we here. But just the same, it was sessions where I can think of a session or two where we probably was there for 3 or 4 hours before a vocal got laid or before a lyric got written, just cause we also, you know what I'm saying, just homie brothers and just like, oh shit, we are in the studio, let's go and write some music.
We've been talking and kicking it for 2 hours, 3 hours. Like, well, shit, it is time that we might want to get to work.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But a lot of those conversations created the records for us, though.
Yeah, and the Royal Rumble song, the last song that we actually recorded, I remember this nigga looking at, we in there like laughing out loud, like I can't remember, we was laughing about some silly shit. And he looked at his phone. He said, "Man, it's 3:15, man. I gotta go." Like, because we were in Memphis. Yeah.
6 in the morning.
Because
you gonna give me 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah, and it was a complete shift of like, man, hold on, you know, because we get lost in it. Like I said, but that was one of the things where we were having that much fun that it's like, shit, we do have some work to do. We do have an assignment. And I got shit to do when I leave here. I'm out of town, you know what I'm saying? But I had to get on the road and pick my kid up from school after school. So it's that's the primary difference, like for me. But it was one of those things that, back to the nostalgia part of it, it felt more like Step Brothers 1 than any of them. In terms of what was similar, in that we just going and things are just like I said, the same with Step Brothers 1, I don't know if we had any extra songs on that one.
I don't think so.
I think everything we recorded is what y'all heard. Yeah. You know.
That's how we ended up with Karate in the Garage.
Yep.
Because those are actually initially were 2 of my songs with Craig on them. And we said, fuck it, let's give them everything we got. And here we are.
Well, I'm Throw was one of my songs, and Thanks Anyway was yours.
Yeah, so see, we met in the middle.
Yeah.
Word. It worked out perfect.
Nah, that's what's up. And one of the dopest things I like about some of the titles on each of the Step Brothers project is that it's literally just song 25, song 6. You know?
We got 49th song on this album and 52nd song.
Yeah.
And we ain't had no name for it.
Sometimes what happens.
That's what see fit.
And you know, sometimes we got a plan, and sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
We let that shit flow.
Right. You know, some songs name themselves, or it's like an obvious, like this is what this song is gonna be titled because you saying something. But again, he helped me subscribe to this, like not thinking too hard. If you gotta think too hard about it, it probably gonna end up being a bad idea. And so it's like, before we think too hard, it's like, well, just number it. Yeah. Because when I start a new session, more times than not, I don't know what the hell I'm about to record. So my sessions are named the date. That's just, it'll be easier to find. At least I can say I was in the studio what's that song I did last week? And can look at the calendar and find the song. Yeah. But with that, and if I do several songs in a day, it'll be the date 1 or the date and then 2. And so that's probably part of that.
I record the same way, except mine called freestyle until I figure out a name of it. That's why some of the songs I got will be called, Dornbecker freestyle. Them just happened to be the shoes I was wearing when I wrote the song. I said, all right, well, fuck it. Dornbecker freestyle. One of them was called Popcorn freestyle. Yeah. And that was because
you got popcorn on your feet?
No, when I was writing the song, I was talking to Bink, and we was talking about episode with me and Piff. We had caught skipping school. And the reason we got caught is because he popped popcorn. So when my mama came home, we hid in our room, we hid under the beds. And she smelled popcorn. It's fucking 11 o'clock. Yeah. Why the fuck am I smelling popcorn?
Yeah, I was definitely gonna ask you about floor seats freestyle.
Floor seats, I think I had just paid for flow seats with my wife.
Yeah.
But that's how it happened. I just, I don't spend too much time trying to figure that part out.
Yeah.
I had listened to Genuine song. We thought that shit was called My Whole Life Has Changed. That shit's called Differences.
Huh.
See? Exactly. I said, but that didn't make me like the song any less. I said, all right, well, maybe I might be overthinking this kind of shit.
Yeah.
So from that, I'm like, man, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. So y'all said y'all met around 2010, and I know DGB, we did our A3C show in 2011 that featured both of you guys. That was a legendary show for us. That was us even putting a stamp on just, bringing street niche music and just a different style of music that was normally being brought to these festivals like A3C or even South by Southwest, which we did later that year. But I know, Lito, we were talking about just the impact of, of those shows and during that time period and everything, and just how much that helped on both ends, our brand, as well as yours.
We really grew up together in that sense. Shit, us and DGB.
Nah, for sure. I mean, you guys brought Dolph over to Corey Mo's studio, Mad Studios, and that was, besides us posting them and, and supporting his music, that was our first time actually connecting with him in person as well. So.
See, I ain't even know that.
Yeah,
That's it. I fuck with that.
Yeah.
One time for Dolph.
Yeah, no, for sure. Long live Dolph, for real. If somebody goes to listen to Step Brothers for Life project, what would be a song that you would tell them to listen to first?
For me, I would say Butterfly Effect. I would say that because that's a record that we speak to our younger selves, almost like a reflective verse. Just because I think sometimes we have to be reminded that we're not the only people in the space that we're in. It's however many people on the planet, and whatever I went through at that time, it felt permanent. It felt like, it wasn't ever going to end. I wasn't ever going to make it out of it. And, I'm here now, and I'm proof that, that I could persevere. And I think for some of the people that listen to us, our music is therapy. And, that's a thing that I think every person should grasp. That, it ain't so permanent. Even when it's fucked up, sometimes you can work your way out of it. And, in some cases, your mistakes are what make you who you are. So, you even in that regard, you gotta look at it like, that's how I got here.
You said where to start?
Yeah.
Well, easy answer would be start at the beginning, because
Of course.
I knew
one of y'all was gonna say that. I knew it.
Well, like I mentioned about being an album artist more than a single artist, like I think we arranged it to be consumed in full. Now I know I've made the mistake before having my phone or whatever on shuffle, and so when I hit play on something, it might start wherever, and if that's why I'm like, however you arrive at that point, I would say start at the beginning, because we put it in an order for intentionally on purpose. It ain't just we didn't randomize the order of the songs, but I guess more for what you asking, I'd say Royal Rumble, and not just because I co-produced it, but because it's a callback to one of our standout tracks that actually the first time that people heard us in, branding this Step Brothers group or brand was Karate in the Garage. Yeah. That was the first thing that we put out formally, and it was to announce that, hey, we about to drop a tape, and here's this 7-minute long, freestyle, jacking for beats style song.
Right.
We returned to form on that. I want you to listen to it. I don't want to give you too many details on it, but it's got a very, very pronounced theme but it's in that same vein. And I would, if I had to pinpoint something, I would say start there because it's a return to form of our roots.
Yeah.
Of I feel like what originally got people excited for this whole thing, and it's like, yeah, that's it's called Royal Rumble. We go back and forth 30 times on the song. It just happened like that.
Yeah.
But the rest of it is go check that out. But my favorite song, which is not what you asked, is Schadenfreude, and I just think it's just a very like on point. Like we took a word of the day and its literal definition and basically, translated into song form. Okay. And I just think I just like it. I like that song. I mean, and it'll probably change. I'll probably have a different favorite song next week.
Yeah, nah, that's what's up. And as a true fan, I got to ask y'all this question. Yeah, 5 times is a lot of, I feel like us fans is one of our favorite songs from Step Brothers. Mm-hmm. Then you guys released a Yeah 5 times 2.0 on, was it?
Imposter Syndrome.
Yeah, on Imposter Syndrome. But the vibe of the song is totally different, and it's really a deep song where you guys really took it there. Mm-hmm. I know you guys both, spoke on, people close to you who passed away, your partner Skinny, Trip, your brother, Piff, right. God rest his soul. Why did that song, the 2.0, why was it so different from the original?
Well, back to that titling, how we title songs, that shout out to JP on the tracks. That's his vocals singing. It's not a sample. It's one of the producers on the song is actually singing the part of the hook. When I pulled the beat up in the studio, like it immediately moved me because rap music has lost its soul in a lot of ways. Like I was thinking about the Gangsta Lean from DRS back in the day, Master P, I Miss My Homies, Crossroads, like there used to be songs that touched on grief and now it's just spin, kill, and I'm like, damn, we losing like humanity, we losing certain emotions, certain things don't even get addressed. And so I immediately was like, yeah, this is hard. I didn't immediately write verses to it, but when I went back and was kind of putting the album together, I was listening and I'm like, damn, I'm singing. By this time I knew that I had listened to it and kind of I'm singing along with it, and when I get to the part, like, yeah, I'm singing along with the sample. And I realized that he said yeah 5 times, just like the Headless sample from Step Brothers 3. And I was like, damn, what are the odds that he says yeah? Because that song was called Yeah 5 times because of that. Right. And I was like, damn, he said yeah 5 times as well. I kind of was almost just kind of laughing at the coincidence of it. But again, I'm like, well, shit, it's yeah 5 times all over again. And beat-wise, it don't sound the same. For sure, the song was halfway written with his hook already. I actually went in and rewrote some of the lyrics for the chorus to make sure it was something like how we would naturally talk. Because I think he put it together to sound like a sample, or sound real bluesy, and I wanted to make it current, like scrolling through pictures on my phone, and so you would know like this is current, this is modern, and yeah, so it's a different vibe, completely different subject matter, and twofold, because I was gonna call it Yeah 5 times, and obviously like he was a part of it was our song collectively, and I guess also considering the subject matter, like, his brother was like a brother to me. Absolutely. And he was the greatest hype man in the world, and Definitely. And I sent the song to him, and just you know, insights what we're here for. When he sent the verse back, it was the last thing that I did for that album last summer, Imposter Syndrome album. The 2 records he's on were the last 2 songs on the project in terms of the recording process. When he sent me the verse back and I could hear, you know what I'm saying, I could hear the emotional outpouring. Like, man, I cried like a baby when I got his verse back. And I mean, I had to like get myself together before I could call him. I was calling equal parts to thank him for, you know, sending my verses back, but also I called and I apologized for drawing that emotion out. Like, I think I was wearing that hat of, you know, artist and run my own label, so, you know, I'm just trying to, you know, checklist get my album together. I was like, damn, like, I'm so much just like in go mode trying to get this project out that I felt like I had not considered what it were required to tap into like those feelings and emotions and otherwise. Like, he's one of my favorite rappers ever. It's like anytime I get a feature for him, it's like for my outside of the Step Brothers brand, it's always like Christmas morning kind of thing. I want to hear where he gonna take it. But in that moment, I really felt like terrible, like, and I called to apologize for asking that of him to tap into that, and he stopped me and he was like, "Man, you don't." I don't know if he wanted me to share this.
No, you good.
He was like, "Man, it's all good. You don't have to apologize. Like, it's necessary, bro." This was the conversation we had. He was like, I don't go to therapy. I don't talk to nobody. Like, this is that for me. Like, he like literally told me it's necessary, and I was like, I mean, that took that off of me, like the burden of guilt or whatever else. But from then, that, you know, that just speaks to our actual like direct bond. Is like in that moment, I'm like, man, before we, aside from us ever doing another song, like, I care, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm hearing the song and I'm like, cause even with the apology, I was in a space of like, man, we don't have to put this out, kind of thing. Like, it's hyper personal. It's like you said, polar opposite of Yeah 5 Times. We just talking shit and having fun on the record. It was like, damn, this is, like I said, in the studio when I heard the beat, it was like, man, the game is missing this type of song. I'm almost just trying to like fill a void. Like, that's where my mind goes as far as like, I don't want to say just purely, but on some hustling shit. Like, what's not in the marketplace, you know what I'm saying? And so there was parts that, and then when we actually did it, I'm like, oh shit, this is almost like too real. Yeah. And, you know, that conversation with him was confirmation that like, nah, it's necessary.
Nah, it's necessary.
And it ended up being the biggest song that I put out last year, and for sure a standout record. As soon as the album came out, almost all the feedback was about that song. I read comments, messages every day. You know, I've gotten videos from people crying listening to the song. My partner, rest in peace, Skinny, his family, some of his immediate family reached out, like, thanking, you know, me for acknowledging, you know what I'm saying, his memory and, you know, in song form and I was like, yeah, it's just a sequel don't have to be linear.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's only really a sequel in namesake. Like you said, you like it or you don't. It's good or it's not. Like, but it was the verbiage, the lyrics, and the sample or the chorus part. In that sense, it was not actually a sample. JP said yeah 5 times, just like the Heather Headley thing. So it was a 2.0. In that sense, but yeah.
I know, I love that song. I lost my mom's about 2.5 years ago, and that was like one that, you know what I mean, I listen to a lot. Just
but
helps me get through stuff.
that's why I said it was necessary. Cause you know, it's, shit. You know, like I was saying, some of the shit we go through, we don't go through it by ourselves, even though we isolated in that moment.
Yeah.
And you know, same deal. I'm like, man, you know, it fucks with me. I don't know when it's gonna stop fucking with me, but so be it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, my music is a reflection of that. And like you said, shit, I don't got no fucking therapist. I don't, you know, I got too much shit to pour out in it. It would become too fucking expensive. So I'd rather just invest in this and let this be my therapy. But I think, you know, that's why that song is a beautiful record. And shit, he sent that shit to me when he first started the tape. I couldn't send it back until he was done. It just was a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
And I had to go ahead and get the, I don't remember what the first record was, but I got the first record out the way sooner than that last one.
Yeah, the one with Landlord Propane.
Yeah. I told him I had to do that first because once I tap in to do the 5 times, ain't gonna be nothing left in me. I ain't gonna be able to do that other verse. I appreciate that, brother.
Nah, for sure.
I gotta trip, man. I gotta get you.
But nah, I know I could sit here and ask a million more questions.
Oh, you know how we rock, man. We go all the way back.
I already know, man. You know, I just want to say, man, I appreciate your guys' just contribution, just to the game. I appreciate being friends with you brothers. You know what I'm saying? Love y'all boys, and
too, fam.
This has been an honor for me, and yeah, man, y'all got any shout outs y'all want to give?
Man,
shout out to Craig.
Same here, man. Shout out to Craig, Step Brothers, for life.
Yeah, man. I mean, we just shout out to y'all. Shout out to whoever.
The other Craigs on the other side of the camera.
Whoever eyes and ears, artists reaches, and the idea that we're not doing it in vain. Like the therapeutic side of it is that much more fulfilling, that our livelihood is attached to it, and that it's still working. Yeah, man, we here.
Yes,
True indeed.
That's what's up. Appreciate y'all pulling up,
jumping
off the porch with us.
Like John saying that like Steve Wonder, I'm a visionary. Step brothers for life, yeah, till we dead and buried. That's legendary. Independent. Craig love Princess Chicken like I love Memphis women.